Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Um, I know I was just here with Brittany, but I came back with a great, great lady, Mary. And if you are new here, my name is Noura, and I'm an enrolled agent and the founder of Noura's Books. I am known as a nonprofit CFO, and I have with me today a great guest, and I'm so happy to have you, Mary. So we're going to be talking about strategic planning. So stay here with us and put your questions in the comments if you have one. And I just want to thank you, Mary, for joining me, and really happy to have you today.
It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Thank you. So, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience? I want to give you a chance to tell them like who you are, what's your background, and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So my name is Marie Palacios, and I'm coming to you today. I wear lots of different hats in my world, but today I'm coming as a lead consultant for Funding for Good. And Funding for Good is a nonprofit consulting organization, but we've expanded beyond the nonprofit world. We work with for-profits, nonprofits, corporations to do all things development, business planning, strategic planning, and all things development. And a little bit about my background. I've spent the better part of 20 plus years working in the nonprofit sector, first as a volunteer, then as a program director, then as an executive director. I've done development director work. So all things grassroots organizing, whereas my business partner has been more on the corporate side of capital campaigns and development work. I've been really kind of in the trenches, grassroots organizing and fundraising, and have loved that. And in the last 4 to 5 years, stepped away from those employee positions to run my business full time and work with Funding for Good to get out in the community in the nonprofit world and see how I can support. So it's not just a consulting thing for me. It's been my life for almost a quarter of a century.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, sir. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here today and talk to the people and let them know really like this is strategic planning is one of the things that not so many people talk about, and
Mhm.
no, not a lot of people like understand it or understand when is it important and why it is important. So let's start with like what is strategic planning, just so for the people out there to see to really know like in a simple way what is it.
So, strategic plan, if you're in the for profit business world, you've just heard it as a business plan. Essentially, a business plan and a strategic plan is a live document, meaning it's something you're going to update and keep current and relevant to determine the growth of your organization. So, we know that a strategic plan really defines our growth. And in my world, we say strategic plans answer three questions. It really defines where we are now as an organization, as a company, where we want to be in a certain number of years, and then how we're going to get there. So every strategic plan is a plan for growth, but it's based on those questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? And when you can answer those three questions, you have a lot greater chance for success in creating that momentum that you need. Everyone's on the same page as far as goals. You're setting that destination and strategies on how to arrive.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely know, you have to know where do you want to go in order to know what road to take. So that is really simple way to think about it. I think even sometimes when people think about these questions, they don't think this is a strategic plan. This is how they can do a strategic plan. Like, like kind of separate it.
Less than half of companies have strategic plans. We look at nonprofits nationwide, less than half of them have a nonprofit or have a
Mhm.
strategic plan. But we know that just having a well crafted strategic plan can double a nonprofit's chance for success. So just taking the time to really go into an intentional process. I'm not talking about going and sitting down at your desk and doing something alone, but an intentional planning process with key decision makers can literally double an organization's chance for success as they grow.
Oh, that's amazing. So, what is the difference? Is there a difference between a business strategic plan or a nonprofit strategic plan?
A lot of people ask that, but really there's not. If they're both business plans, and what people don't seem to realize is that nonprofits are businesses. They're just tax exempt. So we know people say, but I'm not a business, I'm a nonprofit. Well, you are classified as a tax exempt business. So we like to remind people that tax exempt is your tax status, or we say nonprofit is your tax status. It's not your operating model. A
Mhm.
lot of people think, well, I'm a nonprofit. I can't actually make any money. And at the end of the year, I should have a zero balance budget. I should have the same number of dollars or I should have $0 in the bank account because I raised 100,000 and I spent 100,000. And for the beginning of my career, that's what I was led to believe by the experts, is that you should have a zero balance budget. You're a nonprofit, you can't make money. But
Mhm.
the NFL was a nonprofit until about 2014, 2015. And I'm pretty sure they made some money.
Yeah.
Hospitals, if you go look at nonprofit hospitals, they're they may be nonprofits, but they have operating reserves in the millions in the bank. So we like to remind people that strategic planning is about planning for your organization's future. And if you're constantly operating with the mindset of, I can't have a reserve, I can't have any money in the bank, I have to be at a zero balance budget, you're not building capacity. Because if you're starting with zero and then any crisis, any emergency, any situation or challenge comes up, you're in crisis mode. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations operate in crisis mode. So strategic planning is so important, because if we can actually plan to have resources here and then we fall, we're still at survival mode versus falling into crisis mode. So strategic planning is about getting the business above just operations and building capacity so that you can do more, serve more, and be around for a lot longer.
Yeah, I don't know where did this came from. Like, nonprofits should not have money at the end of the year. I like first time I heard that. Who told you so? I didn't see it anywhere.
Well, I think it's because people call them nonprofits. And I like to remind people there's still a business. There's
Uh,
lots of different classifications, and I'm sure you in your world can explain those classifications better than I can. But
mhm,
there's lots of tax exempt status. Hospitals may look different than schools, from
mhm.
public education groups, from regular 501c3, which is what most of us are familiar with. Um, a lot of the misconception comes because of the term nonprofit. Really, what it's saying is that it's not there for the purpose of earning profits, and the directors should not be there for a profit. So, for
Mhm.
example, your board of directors shouldn't be earning their primary income or earning money off the mission of the organization. They can certainly be compensated for the expenses they've had, but they shouldn't be making money. But all staff members should be making money, and all subcontractors who are contracted to come in and do work should absolutely be able to make money, because the heart doesn't pay the bills. So we
Mhm.
should be operating a nonprofit as a regular business that just happens to have a purpose, rather than a profit as the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish more people like know this more and more. Like we try to tell them it's a business, and actually it has a requirement to stay in compliance more than business. I
Oh
was
yeah.
just talking to actually a client yesterday who registered the business with us. You know, we helped him form the business, and then he wants to also form the nonprofit. And actually the investment to start a nonprofit is a lot higher than the investment of starting a business. It's like, why this is nonprofit? I'm like, it's a lot of work.
In my world, it's a lot more work. And, we had someone call us this week and say, I'd like to contract you to do a business plan for my nonprofit. And I said, okay, where are you in your nonprofit development
Mhm.
status? And they said, we're going to start one.
Yeah.
And the first question I always ask is why? Why do you want to start one? Well, I want to do this amazing work. Well, is someone else already doing it? Because we shouldn't be duplicating services. What most people don't realize is that when they start a nonprofit, you can't own a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Own my own business. I'm the owner and president of my consulting company and my husband's construction company. But as a nonprofit, the moment we decide to qualify it as a public charity, we're saying it's bigger than me as a person, that this is for the benefit of the public. Therefore, the public are the decision makers, and those board of directors are the representatives. So I can't do anything alone. I must have, according to the IRS, at least 3 directors to function and be in compliance. And every state's different. So you can go to Harbor Compliance, I think it's .com, Harbor Compliance, and you can see what the requirement is for your state. But IRS at minimum level, it's 3 board of director members, which means if I founded it, I should always have 2 other people that are helping, make those decisions on behalf of the community we serve.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of people don't realize that. Like they have to have 3 people. I'm like, we cannot apply for exemption if you don't have 3 people,
Mhm.
and we cannot apply for exemption if you do not have your bylaws. We cannot if you do not have a conflict of
Mhm.
interest. And then we're gonna go to the state and see what they required for you as a nonprofit. It's a
Absolutely.
lot of things to do, a lot of paperwork. So yeah, like, and like you said, you have to start right. You have to start right. You can't really just jump and register the organization just because you were so um, so maybe still moved with something happened, like an event happened around you or with you or someone close to you, and just go and open nonprofit, you have to know what is it gonna entail. Are you ready to take that responsibilities? Are you ready to do this investment? Are you ready to actually be public? Because everything in nonprofit is a public thing. Like you cannot hide stuff, like everything online.
And a lot of people, whether you're starting or whether you're growing an organization, a strategic plan is one of the best ways to make sure a team's on the page. And when I say strategic plan, I'm not saying get a little piece of paper and put it in a notebook and put it on a shelf, because that's just a document. That's not a live plan. We work with organizations that are starting up to do maybe an 18-month to a 2-year plan. So they may look ahead further and say, I'd like to be here in 10 years, but we have to figure out who their team is first. So planning at the startup stage looks different than when you're growing from a mature organization. But essentially, most people just don't realize how important a plan is and why you should have one. So happy to talk a little bit about why we should have a plan and some other things today.
Yeah, go ahead. Like, let us know, like, why they should have a plan. Actually, how is it going to benefit them for both business and nonprofit? So
It's the same thing. I mean, I mentioned earlier that my husband and I have a small construction business and it's growing, and we need some new equipment. So we could go into the bank and we could say we'd like a loan for our business to grow the capacity of our business. We need a new gutter cutting machine because we're expanding into more gutter cutting or gutter installation. Those are expensive machines. He needs some other trailers. And we're going to go into a bank, and the first thing the lender is going to ask me is, how much do you need and for what? Like, we need $100,000 for what purpose to grow this particular area of our business. The next thing they're going to ask me is, what's your business plan? Like, how is this gutter machine and this trailer and this particular tools going to allow you to meet your business goals? So what are your business goals? How is this loan going to directly help you to do that and ensure that you're going to pay us back, because we need a return on our investment, right? So that first thing they're asked is, what's your business plan? The second they're going to look at is my current financial state. Where am I right now in my financials? What's my current capacity? Do I have employees? Do I not have employees? Do I have subcontractors? Like, what's my current capacity to actually do the work I'm proposing in the plan? And the third thing they're going to look at is my credit history, to say, what is my history of paying back loans? Am I going to be a safe investment for them? Because they're looking for a return on their investment. The bank's not giving you money because they love your business. They're looking for a return on investment. Well, in the nonprofit world, we forget that every single donor is like a lender at the bank, that they're investing in us, but they're not looking for a return on investment in the form of dollars. They're looking for a return on investment in the form of impact. How are you going to use my dollars to help more people, to do more of the work that you're doing that I'm passionate about? So they want to see that we have a plan. How much do we need? What is our plan for the future? A business plan, strategic plan. They want to know where we are now. What's our current capacity? How are we going to use it to activate this plan? And our history of success, that credit score, is the credit score that the banks look for. Our history of success in the nonprofit world is what people look at. So if I had a strategic plan and I said, in year one, we said we're going to do this, and at the end of the year, I tell my donors we did this, then my credit score just went up, because I'm creating credibility. I'm saying, you used my dollars to do what you said you're going to do, and here's the result. So they're going to feel more comfortable investing in me, just like a bank. But we forget in the nonprofit world that we need to be able to say, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and this is how we need your resources to help us get there. So strategic plan is really at the center of what should be all your fundraising, but also your business development work. I mean, it drives everything. It keeps your team on the same page.
yeah, definitely, that's amazing. So just to let the audience know, like, is it, so you're saying strategic plan is the same as the business plan? It's the exact same thing?
It's the same purpose. The intent is to really tell the organization's goal. It's really to define the future of the organization and say, this is where we want to be, and this is what success looks like, and this is how we're going to get there. The biggest difference might be the scope of work. So for a very small startup nonprofit, I might be working with the board of directors and 1 or 2 staff members. So I'm heading to middle of North Carolina this coming week to do this with an organization, and it might be 20 people in the room. But with a corporation or municipality or larger business, we may be working with lots of different departments. And so the strategic plan may have a master plan, like, here's what we're doing company wide, but here's the goals for each department. So if you have departments or lots of satellite offices or different service regions in the nonprofit sector, it could get pretty big. But if it's the same thing as a business plan, it just may look a little bit different in the scope depending on where you are in your growth as an organization.
And now, like, I know we might get this question from people. Would you include marketing plan? Would you include any other plan under the strategic plan?
Yes. So strategic plans are different than business as usual. So I'm glad you mentioned marketing, because strategic plans are different. Most organizations already know what their business as usual is. Business as usual is the thing you're already doing. You've got it in a routine. Strategic plans cover the things you're going to do differently, better, more of, because it's about building capacity. It's about saying, how do we sustain our organization and how do we increase our impact, whether it's dollars, whether it's services, number of people served. That's what the strategic plan is designed to do. So again, scope is a little bit different. The number of people involved are a little bit different, but it is going to drive all of that planning. Big thing in the nonprofit world, which is different from the business world, is as a business owner, I can decide tomorrow that I want to change my plan, right? I can say, I'm going to change. My husband's no longer going to do gutters. We're going to build decks, right? But in the nonprofit world, we have to have a board of directors, and we are responsible for the community. Like we have to be transparent for the community. So having a strategic plan, a plan saying this is where we want to be in 5 years, and this is how we're going to get there, and this is what success look like, it provides that transparency and that assurance to our community that we're all on the same page. So when new board members come in, they're not going to say, well, I think we should do this, and someone else says, but we should do it. It eliminates some of that tug of war and make sure that we're all on the same page. So in the nonprofit world, I feel like a business plan is even more important because you have so many different voices and volunteers coming in, and everyone is there for a different reason. Their passions are different, and their experiences are different. And it's easy to get in what I like to say, the three-legged race. We all think we're heading in the same direction, but we're kind of pulling at each other to move a little bit quicker or slower. And the strategic plan should help outline those timelines, so we're moving the same direction at the same pace.
Yeah, it's funny. Even in staff meeting, in business, when business have a staff meeting, or anyone have staff meeting, it's funny, you talk about something and then different people will go implement it in another way. Sometimes like it's totally opposite of what you spoke about. Like, what did we just say? But you think, I thought we're doing this, because they don't really hear it.
No, it means something different to every single person. So, I always say, let's just imagine we said, you're all my board of directors, and we're going to go to California on July 4th for a retreat. Well, everyone knows where we're going, California. When do we need to be there? July 4th. Excellent. Well, some people may jump on a red-eye plane and say, I'm busy. I'm going to get there July 3rd and I'm flying into LAX. Others are going to say, I've always wanted to road trip it. Let me take a van. Others are going to say, let me get on a train. And if any of the board members get stuck, maybe a flat tire, a flight delayed, we're no longer in the same place. So we can't say, how do we adjust? Because we're in different places, traveling at different speeds. So California is a pretty big state. Everyone thinks we know where we're going. We just got to show up on July 4th. But and a lot of times organizations in their strategic plans fail to outline the time frames properly and say, this is year 1, 2, or 3. And some of the strategies, we're going to go in this particular way. So we're all moving together. And most importantly, they don't put in regular reviews and accountability to check in and say, have we had any delays? Have we had any opportunities that change the work we're doing? So it keeps everyone on the same page. Crafting a document's great, but you have to review it every quarter and make sure, did we do what we said we were going to do? If yes, let's keep moving. If no, how do we adjust for the next quarter? And again, like you're saying, getting people on the same page is hard. So a really well-crafted strategic planning, not just the plan, the process. A lot of people come to us and they say, we want you to just create a written document. We don't do that. We have an evidence-based process that works from point A to point Z to make sure the whole team's on the same page. Because if they're not on the same page, that plan will sit on a shelf and it will not be used, and it will be a waste of their time and money to hire us to come in. So as I said, we do use an evidence-based process that relies on the participation of all decision makers, so that everyone says, now I know why we said we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to get there.
So let me ask you this. What's what's the pushback you get when you're talking to clients? I'm sure we all have these pushbacks and how you convince them.
So we wrote an article. It's on fundingforgood.org, and I know you're going to share that. If you just go to fundingforgood.org and search strategic planning, we have several articles written exactly to answer that question. I get a lot of executive directors that contact me and say, I'm lost. I feel like I'm constantly keeping tons of balls in the air and I don't know which one I can drop because there's no plan. I don't know. I'm supposed to just do everything. And I can't convince the board that we need a strategic plan because they just tell me, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. And at the end of the day, the board of directors of a nonprofit is that's one of their legal and ethical duties, is to provide direction for the organization. If I'm keeping the organization going and I'm deciding what we do as the director, and then I step away tomorrow, the organization no longer has a sense of direction or a leader. But if the board's involved with the staff to create a plan and approve a plan, then if I step away as the director, they can hire someone and say, this is the direction we're going and this is the basic strategies. You certainly have freedom to kind of come up with new ways to do these things, but here's our direction. There's where we want to be in 5 years. So it creates sustainability for an organization. So it's not just about achieving the goals, it's about sustainability. So I get pushback from board members that say our executive director is doing fine. One of the blocks, a lot of people have had bad experiences with strategic planning. So I never just assume that they want to do, most of the times they're not upset about the thought of strategic planning. They've just had a bad experience. They spent a lot of time doing it and then it went nowhere. It sat on a shelf. Or they couldn't agree. I had a client call and say, we've been working on our plan for 4.5 years. I said, oh, it was a 5-year plan. It's going to expire. No, we've been crafting it for 4.5 years.
Wow.
And the pushback was that every time a life crisis happened, a pandemic, transition in the organization, they would pause planning and say, we just need to get through this to create a plan. And I would argue that that's when you need to stop and actually create a plan. So organizations say, we just need to get through the pandemic before we can plan because we don't know what the future is going to hold. Or we just need to get through X or Y, or this new board we need to hire our new executive director before we can get a plan. And I would say it's when the future is uncertain that you really want to stop and have those conversations, because a plan will work and grow alongside of you. If you craft it well, you'll have room to pivot and you'll have room to discuss, but at least you have a starting point. You'll say, here's the destination. And as you get more staff on board, life settles down, you can say, do we still want that as the destination, or do we all agree we're going to shift? But as long as you refuse those conversations and say, we can't plan until things calm down, no one has a sense of direction. Everyone's going different ways. So I think the pushback is it doesn't work. It's time consuming. It costs too much to bring someone out. And we see people try to save time and money by doing it in-house, and they don't get the product that they want. And then they assume that the process was a failure. And a lot of times it's just the process wasn't the one they needed to get the end product that they could have used.
So no, I think actually for anything planning or, like finding an exit or a way to pivot, it's more beneficial to bring someone in-house, not in-house to work in-house, to help the people who are in-house. So an outsider, because you can see the whole picture while everyone inside, like just worrying about, details, daily day process, they cannot really see the full picture. When you are a consultant, you're going to ask everyone and you will have the perspective from everyone thing. And then you're going to have their input, of course, and making sure that you are on the same page with them. It's much more effective, and you finish it probably much faster.
Consultants should be driving the process while participants drive the content. So a lot of times people will say, oh, my consultant wrote this plan for us. And I'm thinking, alone? Well, we talked to them for 4 hours and they wrote it. And I said, no. The consultant drives the process, but you should be driving the content. In the nonprofit strategic planning world, there's 3 different ways a consultant can work with you. One is an educator. They can say, here's what you should know about strategic planning. The second one is a consultant. Here's what I would do in your position while strategic planning. And the third one is as a facilitator. What do you think you should do in your strategic plan? And at Funding for Good, we do all 3 of those, but when we lead up to the retreat, but when we head into that retreat, we go into it with the mindset that the room's going to be filled with the experts on the topic. Your team, your volunteers, staff, and board are the true experts. We may be familiar with their field. We may have worked in it a long time, but you know your community better than anyone. So our job is to provide focused conversations to allow everyone to contribute and keep the conversations moving so that we get to the end product using an evidence-based process. Like I said, it's impossible to be a neutral facilitator and an active participant. So if you're an executive director or a CEO or board member and you think, well, I'm going to facilitate this for my team, you can't actively participate without stealing the thunder because you're the one holding the Sharpie or having the PowerPoint slide. So even if you're the best facilitator in the world, I've been doing this for 2 decades, I never facilitate for the organization that I'm leading because I need to be able to stand back and participate equally with others, not control the room and manage the room. So I always call in a neutral third party to do that, even though this is my background.
Yeah, exactly. Just because you do it for others, it doesn't mean it's the best thing to do it for yourself. I think that's why you know that, because you've done it for others. But unfortunately, a lot of people, like, they say, oh, okay, we know how to do this. We're going to do the development plan ourselves. We're going to do the fundraising ourselves. We're going to do our books ourselves, our taxes ourselves. They don't realize they're wasting your time. You're not doing the thing that you are best at. You're taking your time from what you really should be doing and your job at your organization or business, and then trying to wear someone else's hat while you're not going to put it in the best potential. It's not going to be as good. You're going to lose what you were doing because you're not on top of it anymore. And just because you're trying to save more money, and you actually end up spending more money.
And you asked me about how the marketing plan fits in. So just to circle back to that, a lot of times people think of the strategic plan, they say, oh, we should put our marketing goals in there. Like someone sent me one and it said, we're going to have 100 tweets a month. Well, that's a strategy. And they're like, should we set that as a goal? And I said, absolutely not. That is a tactic. That's not a strategic plan level. Why do you want 100 tweets a month? Well, because we know that we need to get more visibility. Okay. So is the end goal to increase visibility or engagement? Yes. So then the strategic plan goal will be focused around strategic engagement or visibility. And the marketing plan would be a way to get there. But I would assume that we cannot create a marketing plan in the middle of a strategic planning session with people who are not experts in marketing. So in a typical strategic plan, we might see language. One of my clients last week said, we will have completed our first targeted marketing campaign. So they wanted to get in there and talk about Facebook posts. I said, no, you're not the experts in marketing. So we're not going to create a Facebook post. We're going to say that by this point next year, we will have completed a professional marketing campaign. But that gives you time after our retreat, after the strategic plan's approved, to go say, who are the experts in marketing, help them identify our audience, establish goals for marketing, and then create a marketing plan to achieve that strategic plan goal. But your strategic plan goals are always higher level. Achieve development plan goals, achieve marketing plan goals. If it's business as usual, it shouldn't be in there. If it's new, if it's innovative, it should be in there.
Awesome. So how often should they visit that strategic plan once you have it and finalize it? How often they should go to that document and make sure like they're implementing everything?
That's a great question. A lot of groups wait till their end of the year retreat. And I say that's too late, because if you've missed all of your benchmarks, you can't make it up. So at the staff level, we say staff and board, as you're working in your subcommittees or in your departments, you should be using that in your monthly staff meetings or board meetings to kind of keep yourself accountable. But an actual review to say, did we complete this? I say every quarter. So as your quarter comes to an end, so if your plan started in January, by early mid-March, you should be looking and saying, what did we say we were going to accomplish in quarter one? And then you're going to look at it and say, did we do it? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, excellent, we move on and start planning for the next quarter. If the answer is no, then we say, why not? And what do we recommend so that we can keep moving towards our next goals? Maybe we have to move a little bit faster next quarter. Maybe we need to push something out to a different timeline. But if we do that each quarter, we'll constantly be working in real time. At the end of a year, the last quarter of the first year, we always recommend a full retreat and a real comprehensive review. So we usually take with clients that final quarter to say, has there been any major changes in your organization? We had an organization that received an unexpected $1 million gift. Well, that was going to change their timelines. So we realized we needed to review their strategic plan and accelerate some timelines, remove some other things. So it called for a revision of the plan, and that was
Mhm.
really exciting to do. Others maybe didn't get funding they were expecting, and that's going to affect their ability to complete year one or year two goals. So again, we go in at the end of each year, we look at what we did, we celebrate those accomplishments, then we look towards the next year and say, do we still want to move forward with these things, or has the situation changed? We walk away from that 1 day retreat with a revised plan that then guides year two of our plan.
Awesome. So for with funding for good, you do work with the clients moving forward. Like,
Yes.
is it a monthly engagement? How do you work with
It's
people?
customized. So if someone contracts us, we have standard and expanded approaches, and we work with clients. If they like how we work, they like our style, and they want some accountability, we give them options. We can actually conduct their quarterly reviews, or a lot of them I find they're able to conduct their own reviews. But if they book us for their annual review, which a lot of them do, then we check in each quarter with a phone call and an email and say, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? How can we support you? Maybe they need resources. When they book us for that first year review, we also give them access to our vault, which is just pretty much any training, any material you can imagine, all of our free and paid templates on our website, and they get a whole vault of information and resources so that they're not having to search for the things they need to put those their plan into place. So we give them tons of tools. Then we do check-ins, and then we also facilitate their annual retreat and make sure they have a written plan ready for the next year as well.
Awesome. So I put the website on the screen here,
Mhm.
funding for goods, and everything that they can book a call, they can do everything over there.
Mhm.
Awesome.
I recommend using the little search button at the top and looking at strategic planning if you have a topic. We have several articles that are great to hand out to your board of directors to explain what is a plan, why is it important, and there's some great articles that are just easy to pass on. But if you're interested in actually engaging in strategic planning, then we have a tab that says strategic planning. You can book a free 15-minute call and see if we might be a good fit for you.
Mhm.
One size doesn't fit all. There's an article on our website. How do you know what you need a consultant? What questions should you ask? We encourage you to ask us those questions as well, because maybe we're not the best fit, but we do
Mhm.
offer a free call to see if we are. And then if we both believe we might be a good fit moving forward, then we start the process of working together.
Awesome. So is that the only thing you do, strategic planning, or what other stuff like do you offer to people?
So we used to do all things nonstop, but now we're really focused on strategic planning. And then if we work with clients and we see they need development plans, maybe they need to find a development director or a new executive director, or they need to onboard a development director or do a capital
Mhm.
campaign, we can certainly help them with the implementation of their plan and development work. We tend to do that
Mhm.
mostly with clients we've already worked with on their strategic plan, because we feel like it's the best use of their resources. Another really exciting thing that Funding for Good has been doing is working with consultants, so nonprofit consultants. And Mandy and I both worked as nonprofit executives. Then we have become consultants to nonprofits, but now we're becoming consultants to consultants. And we have a big
Mhm.
consulting conference coming up in August.
Yeah.
It's already filling up. We're already seeing seats fill up, but we're teaching other consultants how to grow their business. In just going for, from an executive director to where I am now in 4 years in the consulting business wouldn't have been possible without really working with a really strong partner. And, it's one thing to know how to consult. Most of us know how to do the work in the nonprofit, but we've never had to run our own business as a
Mhm.
consultant. So Funding for
Yeah.
Good's working with consultants to say, you're already experts in what you do. Let us help you run a business that's profitable, because most of our consultants have a nonprofit mindset still. So we want them to
Oh,
create yeah, it was hard for me to charge people money to make what I needed, because I was
yeah.
like, nonprofit. So we work with nonprofits so they can create profitable consulting businesses that align with their values. That I get to work with groups that I'm really passionate about as a consultant, and still make the money I need to make for my family. And Funding for
Mhm.
Good is working with consultants all over the country and world to grow their consulting businesses. So that's probably one of the most exciting things that we're doing in the coming year in the new nonprofit consulting conference.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, they can register for the conference through Funding for Good.
Go to
Okay.
fundingforgood.org and you'll see nonprofit consulting. And there's some tabs including resources, upcoming trainings, and you'll see the conference link on there as well. Early bird special is ending, I believe, today. And there's going to be open registration until the seats fill.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You.
I'm like I'm really happy to had a chance like to talk to you. Um, so I want to ask you, like, do you want to share with any last word you want to share with people before we say bye to them?
I would say that if you're watching this and you're already working in the nonprofit world, that you're doing such important work, and you probably put your own resources, your time, your energy in, and you probably feel like you don't have the bandwidth or the dollars to really go into professional strategic planning processes. But I encourage you to consider choose your hard. It's going to be hard to move forward without a plan. It's going to be hard to put a plan together because both of those things require time and energy. But if we
Mhm.
push now and we work with our team to create a strong sense of direction and unity, then it creates a business and organization that's transparent, that has a potential for sustainability and growth. So choose your hard. Really focus on planning. Get your financial systems in place, get your data and impact reporting in place, and get a strategic plan in place, because once you have that
Mhm.
plan, it's going to be just a little bit easier to make sure everyone knows how you're going to grow that organization. So choose your hard, and hopefully a strategic plan and some really great bookkeeping are parts of those planning processes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. And thank you for everyone who's here and who's going to be watching on the replay. Make sure to go to the website and see what resources there is. And also go to my website if you haven't done your taxes yet. We're running out of time. We do taxes for everyone, like nonprofits, businesses, and individuals. So make sure you get in there, because now it's March 31st and only 18 days left for you to do it, and for your nonprofit also running out May 15th. So don't delay. And we'll see you later. Have a great one.
Have a great day.